Let's go closer. There we go. All right, then. So before we read our story today, we're gonna read a story about Honeycrisp apples. But before we do, we're gonna do a little vocab, okay? So in this story, we've got the words gradient, patented, cultivated, tantalizing, and thrive. Okay, so the first one we're gonna write down is gradient. Gradient.
Grr.
Yep, grr. Good. Let me grab mine.
G. N. No, I spelled that wrong. It just doesn't look right.
What do you have? Oh, no, you were right. All right, so our
But
word
that looks wrong.
No, that's right. All right, we've got gradient. Do you know what gradient means?
Kind of a, like, is it a scale?
So a fish's scales could have like a type of gradient, yeah. It has to do with color. So gradient is like when
Darker to light, or like from color to color?
yeah, it's like instead of it being like this, where it's just like black and white and like starkly, like it ends here, it would kind of like blend and like, yeah, and fade. One would fade into the other. It's like it might be orange fading into yellow or pink fading into, I don't know, blue. So gradient, we're gonna say, is when colors fade together. Here. But if you want, you could draw a little picture of it. So when I think of like, if you're thinking of fish scales, like a fish could fade from like a dark blue to like a lighter blue. Or like snakes kind of have the same kind of thing.
Can't talk now. Working hard.
I'm gonna give you like 10 seconds to finish that one up. Three, two, one. Hey, that looks really good. All right, our next word is patented. Patented.
Pat. And
Pat.
Ted.
And Ted. You're right.
Pat
Exactly.
and Ted?
Kinda.
Oh, I don't have the...
Patented. Oh, does that one not work very well?
Well, I mean, it
I
worked.
don't know if this one's gonna be any better. This one doesn't work at all.
Okay, good enough.
Sorry, I had a better one, but the Whimsical Furniture kids took it. Alright, have you ever heard of like patent pending?
Like patented?
Yeah, like patented, like patent pending.
So other people like can't use it?
Yeah, so it's like if someone is trying to invent something, they
can put a patent on it.
yeah, so that
to
no
stop
one...
other people from stealing it.
Exactly.
So it's basically like putting a lock on an idea.
Yeah, so you already know what this one means. So we can say like the right to own an idea, yeah. Right, to own an idea. It's like that's how other inventors can't steal other people's ideas. What are you drawing?
Ideas
Oh,
with lock.
there you go. I drew a light bulb, but not very good. All right, next one we're gonna look at is cultivated.
Cultivated.
Mm-hmm.
Cultivated.
Cultivated. Cultivated.
Ted.
Nice. Yeah. All right, have you ever heard of cultivated or to cultivate?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have an idea of what it might mean?
Farming or like building and stuff.
Yeah, kind of. So it's like you develop something. So farmers could cultivate like the best species or like best strain of corn. So it's to develop. You want to draw a picture for that one? That one's kind of tricky. I'm gonna go with your idea of a farmer, and I'm gonna try to make some corn kernels. Those just look like chiclets, but that's okay. What are you drawing? What'd you make, Jen?
Building a better species.
Oh, there you go. All right, our next one is tantalizing. Tan, you're right. Zing. Tantalizing. You were right. Have you ever heard of tantalizing?
Kind of yellow spider. Like hypnotic?
Kind of, like so
fascinating or something?
you're close. So like if the dessert was really tantalizing, like it's kind of creating desire or you really, really wanted it. So it's desirable. Or like interesting. So the dessert was really tantalizing. I'm really interested in it and I want to munch it. I'm gonna draw a cookie. Kind of looks like a piece of cheese. What is that?
Person. Cake.
Oh, yep. And that works. All right, and our last one is thrive. Thrive. So what does it mean if something thrives?
It means like its population is booming.
Yeah,
or that like it's doing well.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna say doing well. Like my snake plant is thriving. It's doing really well.
That thought it was called a spider plant.
There's a couple. A spider plant's different than a snake plant.
Is it just like one long tendril?
Spider plants go straight up, so it's kind of like.
No, spider plants.
No, sorry, snake plants go like this, kind of,
Oh.
and they can get really tall. And spider plants are the ones that have the little baby shoots. All right, nice job. Okay, so we've got gradient, patented, cultivated, tantalizing, and thrive. So we're gonna look for those words when we read our story about Honeycrisp apples. So before we read, what do you already know about Honeycrisp apples?
They're apples, and their name is Honeycrisp apples.
Yeah.
And I know more.
What else do you know?
It was either them or a different kind of apple that were the first sweet apples because back in earlier times, like in the 1800s or something, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Apples were bitter and gross, and the only thing that they were good for was making
Like pies?
no,
Applesauce?
no,
What were they good for making?
like, you know, wine and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was like one of the only good things that they were used for.
I thought maybe if you put it in a pie with sugar, it would be good.
No, it tasted terrible back then.
Oh, well, interesting. So you already know a little bit about Honeycrisp apples.
And Johnny Appleseed planted a whole bunch of apples, but literally for like no reason, because nobody would like actually eat them. They would only drink the contents after a few years.
Oh, interesting. Honeycrisp is actually my favorite kind of apple. So, all right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna read this, and we're gonna read it a couple times actually, and then we're gonna answer some questions about it. Okay. So we're gonna read it more than once because it's a pretty short passage. Okay, Jen.
Fine.
All right, can I have you sit up, please? Thank you. All right, Honeycrisp apples.
Honeycrisp apples is a variant of apples. Why does this kind of sound like bad grammar?
Well, it's because, let's check this word. It's not variant.
Variety of apples.
So the Honeycrisp apple is a variety of apples
that is very popular in grocery stores. It has a creamy white center and a yellow background. It has a large reddish orange or pink blotches all over it. The coloring follows a grant.
That's one of our vocab words.
Gradient pattern.
So the coloring follows a gradient pattern.
Honeycrisp apples are typically medium to large in size. Honeycrisp apples were developed in the 1960s in Minnesota. This is where many apples have been cultivated over the years. Honeycrisp apples were patented in 1988. It took almost 30 years to develop. 2 apple breeders named them while they were in their office. They were introduced in grocery stores in 1980.
Mm-hmm.
They became very trendy in 2007. 2007, where it's difficult.
That's okay, you're doing good.
And they were commonly known as a melatonin.
That's a S word.
Mill.
Eel. Millennial.
Millennial apple. Many more similar and great tasting apples have been developed since. What really sets Honeycrisp apples apart and what makes them so popular is their sweet and crunchy deliciousness. They were cultivated to have just the right amount of tart and sweetness. The combination of flavor and texture make biting into a Honeycrisp apple a tantalizing experience. Honeycrisp apples are the 5th most grown apples in America. They are expensive. They're almost also the 5th most popular apples in grocery stores today. They're a bit more expensive than other variants of apples.
Let's check that word.
Varieties of apples. They are twice as much as Red Deluxe. No.
You were right. Delicious.
Delicious apples. People do not seem to mind paying a little extra for these yummy apples. Honeycrisp apples are ripe in the autumn. They thrive in both cool and warm apple growing regions throughout the U.S. They are not super easy to grow, however. In addition to be delicious, eaten fresh, Honeycrisp apples are also commonly used in baking goods and taste great.
Hold on. Honeycrisp apples are commonly used in
baked goods.
There we go. And taste great. Awesome. All right, nice job reading this. What we're going to do now is I'm going to read it one time out loud, and I just want you to follow along and listen, okay? Then after, we're going to answer a couple questions about them.
Okay.
When I'm reading, I want you to listen to how I scoop my words, okay?
Okay.
Okay, I need you to follow along.
I am.
The Honeycrisp apple is a variety of apples that is very popular in grocery stores. It has a creamy white center and yellow background. It has large reddish, orange, or pink blotches all over it. The coloring follows a gradient pattern. Honeycrisp apples are typically medium to large in size. Honeycrisp apples were developed in the 1960s in Minnesota. This is where many apples have been cultivated over the years. Honeycrisp apples were patented in 1988. It took almost 30 years to develop. 2 apple breeders named them while they were in their office. They were introduced in grocery stores in the 1980s. They became very trendy in 2007, and they're commonly known as a millennial apple. Many more similar and great-tasting apples have been developed since. What really sets Honeycrisp apples apart and makes them so popular is their sweet and crunchy deliciousness. They were cultivated to have just the right amount of acid and sugar. That gives Honeycrisp apples just the right amount of tartness and sweetness. The combination of flavor and texture makes biting into a Honeycrisp apple a tantalizing experience. Honeycrisp apples are the 5th most grown apples in America. They're also the 5th most popular apples in grocery stores today. They are a bit more expensive than other varieties of apples. They are twice as much as Red Delicious apples. People don't seem to mind paying a little extra for these yummy apples. Honeycrisp apples are ripe in the autumn. They thrive in both cool and warm apple growing regions throughout the U.S. They are not super easy apple to grow, however. In addition to being delicious eaten fresh, Honeycrisp apples are also commonly used in baked goods and taste great. I've actually never baked anything with a Honeycrisp apple. I always use Granny Smith.
Yeah.
Alright, so what we are going to do now is we're going to go through and we're going to answer some questions about the story, but we're going to go back into the story to check and make sure that our answers are right and that they make sense, okay? So, first one says, identify the central idea and 2 supporting details from the first paragraph. So you know what a central idea is?
Like the main idea?
Yeah, exactly. So we're looking for the main idea. So in the first paragraph, what is it mainly talking about? So what I do when I'm looking for this is I go back.
Coloring.
Yeah, you're right. It's talking all about the coloring because it tells us what?
Oh, what color all of the apple is, the variants of color in the apples.
On the outside and on
the
inside, right? So identify the central idea. We could say the main idea is the different colors that Honeycrisp apples can be. Then we have to give some examples. And what colors can they be?
Red, orange, pink.
Yeah, they can be reddish, orange, or pink. And then what do they look like on the inside?
Whitish yellow.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Nice job. Number 2, identify the central idea and 2 supporting details in the second paragraph. So now we're going to do the same thing. This time we're looking at paragraph number 2. So I'm going to go back and look to see if I can figure out what the main idea is.
When and how they were, when and where they were developed.
Yeah, so I think you're on the right track. It talks about where they were developed. Because do you remember where that was?
Minnesota.
Yeah, they were developed in Minnesota. And what year was it?
19-something. 1988?
1988 is when it was.
Oh, 1966? No, 1960s.
Yeah, in the 1960s. I like that you went back to double check to make sure you were right. So you're right. The second paragraph talks all about where they were developed and kind of how long it took because it didn't just happen right away.
Was it?
And then we need some details. Yep, they were made in Minnesota, you're right. In the 1960s through the 80s, yeah. All right, do the same thing now, but with the third paragraph.
How many paragraphs are there?
2 more, then we'll be done.
I see.
Because we're not doing this one.
Okay.
All right, so paragraph 3, I'm gonna go back and look.
Their popularity?
Yeah, and kind of what they taste like too,
Yeah.
right? Because it tells us what their flavor is like. Maybe why they're popular. What do you got so far? Yay. Yep, so they're known for their sweetness and their tartness because of the acid and sugar. Right. All right, last one, we're looking at the last paragraph. So we're gonna do the same exact thing. We're looking for main idea and details.
Popularity. And what sets them apart.
Yeah, kind of what makes them special. You're right. So what does make them special?
They are the fifth best. Like, they're the fifth most popular and the fifth most grown.
Yeah, in the United States.
The USA.
They're also more expensive, but people don't seem to care.
Yeah.
Which I think is true because I buy them and I'm usually kind of frugal. All right, awesome job. I think we're gonna be all done. I like how you would go back and look and double check to make sure that your answers made sense or that they were correct. So that's something that good readers do when they're unsure of what they've read. They have to go back and double check and make sure that what they've done is correct. Because otherwise, if you're just guessing, it doesn't really help you, right? So that's something that I do all the time too, and it especially helps me on tests. If I don't remember, I just go back and look. Awesome. Nice job, Jen. Yay.